And so he called up Derek Daniels, the original Hydrovane inventor in England, and said, I need a Hydrovane for my boat. And Derek said, well, I can get you one, but I'm thinking of passing on the business. And my dad didn't really think much of it, but he told my mom, and my mom said, call him back, find out what the story is.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Mia, still running the office in Sweden, while Andy is on Falcon in the Pacific. They just took off from the Marquesas on the way to Tahiti. They had about a 10-day stop in the Marquesas. They went hiking, did some boat maintenance. I know they fixed some stuff on the water maker, and I also heard some rumors about some tattoos. So we'll see how that goes when they get back home. Isbjørn, on the other hand, she's above the Arctic Circle in Lofoten at the moment. They're going to head south down to Flåm in Norway, and it's a big contrast between the two boats. Falcon is in the hot, humid Pacific, while Isbjørn, on the last trip, one of the days when they were sailing, they had snow coming down. So, what's new at 59 North? If you want to come sailing with us, check out the page 59-north.com/bunks to see what's open, both in 25, 26, and Falcon in 27. We added a new trip in the end of June, early July on Isbjørn. We call it the sail training sea trial trip. It's a week long, and it's between two maintenance periods on Isbjørn, so it will be a combination of sail training, but also a sea trial and checking out the new systems, a few things that we've been updating on Isbjørn. So it's a great combination if you want to learn not just about sailing, but also how some systems works, and it will be a little bit more in depth about that stuff. So check that out at it's called Leg 5A on Isbjørn, and you'll find it under the open bunks. And a few weeks ago, we opened up the 27 calendar on Falcon. It's a bit hard to leave the Pacific, I must say. I haven't even been there yet. I'm going to go sailing there next year. But it's also going to be great. She's come back to the Atlantic in 27. And it will be really cool to have her coming close to home. And we actually have passage planned all the way up to Stockholm, just an hour away from where we live. So that was going to be cool. And if you want to see the 27 calendar, go to 59-north.com/2027. And that's pretty much it for me. Have a great time and enjoy the episode. Until next, hold fast.
This season of On the Wind is sponsored by Weather Routing Inc., aka WRI, 59 North's longtime weather routing and forecasting friends. You guys, this is an excellent service to take something off your plate and give you a little bit more capacity to focus on all the pre-passage prep. Those final days before an ocean crossing or before any big offshore passage are really busy. So this is an opportunity to leave your forecasting up to the professionals and trust that they have the knowledge, experience, and science behind the forecast that you have coming ahead. They tailor their forecasting and their passage planning to your boat, to your sailing style. Their service is excellent to help you find that perfect departure window and to give you a really accurate forecast of what's going to come in those next few days and weeks that you are offshore. To learn more and to sign up, go to WRIWX.com and of course tell them that 59 North sent you. That's WRIWX.com. On the Wind is also sponsored by BoatHowTo. Take an online course with the one and only Nigel Calder, your boat tech guru. The BoatHowTo team teaches us how to be self-reliant at sea and also save big money by fixing things ourselves. In my experience, those two things are our dream, to be able to become completely self-reliant at sea and fix things without paying somebody else. BoatHowTo currently offers in-depth courses on marine electrical systems as well as marine diesel engines, two incredibly important subjects that we need to have all the information we can about before we head out to sea. Approximately 3,000 students in 85 different countries have now taken the BoatHowTo courses, and boat building schools have even started to integrate these courses into their curriculum. There's no better way to master your boat's systems. So go ahead and learn as much as you can with BoatHowTo.com. Good day, everyone. You are listening to On the Wind, the sailing podcast, and I'm your host today, Jessie Zebelkink. Will and Sarah Curry are the perfect example of a young family who's managed to create and sustain a life between land and sea, managing and operating Hydrovane from their catamaran with their two littles or from their home base in Vancouver. First and foremost, we discuss the ins and outs of the fantastic and very hardy product itself, but on a more personal level, they share a bit about finding their limits aboard, the adjustments they had to make when the boys came, and of course their willingness to live in and accept a constant state of change and adventure. I love these two dearly. They're such an inspiration, and I can't wait for you to enjoy our conversation. Hey, y'all. We got Will and Sarah Curry today. Hey, Will and Sarah.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey, Jesse.
Good afternoon, you guys.
You.
So good to see you again. It's been 3 years. For those of you who don't know, Will and Sarah, they are owners of Hydrovane, which we're going to do a lot of bragging about today. But the first question I want to ask you is, has your own product ever saved you at sea?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably saved like our sanity at sea. Since we had a broken autopilot in the South Pacific. So yeah, if we hadn't had a wind vane, we would have had to head back to Fiji. So there you go. Saved us having to keep up with all our friends.
So when your electronic autopilot failed, you still had Hydrovane to get you across the Pacific.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. We actually we were in Fiji at that point, and we didn't fix the autopilot until we got to Australia.
I don't think we fixed it in Australia.
Well, we sold the boat, I guess.
Yeah, we sold the boat. Whoops.
And how many days straight did Hydrovane carry you across the sea?
Good question. The longest would have been the 19 days from Banderas Bay to the Marquesas. And I would say out of that 19 days, it steered us 18 of the 19 days.
Yeah.
Amazing. Similar in my experience. And how often do you hear stories from other people, myself being included, of this product pretty much saving them or getting them to safety?
Yeah, it's pretty frequent. I was just thinking about your story on Desiree, right? That was the name of the boat?
Yeah, Desiree.
Bigger Atlantic Orchidon. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thinking about your particular story, which was pre-Orcas, because the Orcas are wreaking a lot of havoc over there now.
Yes.
So even before the Orcas, we hear stories all the time, whether it's a broken autopilot and maybe never had even used the wind vane before and put the Hydrovane into gear and it keeps you going, or situations with rudders that just, shear right off, or quadrant failure. Yeah. Oh gosh, we've heard some really wild stories, actually.
It's interesting though, because steering failures and rudder failures are becoming more and more common. And I think just because the way that boats are built nowadays with spade rudders, even, high-end production boats like Harbor Grassy are building boats with spade rudders. So it is becoming more and more of an issue, steering failures.
Can you, for those listeners who might not be well versed in self-steering systems versus autopilots, could you just explain to us what it means to have a fully mechanical self-steering system that requires no electronics, in comparison to an autopilot?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the main difference is that you're steering a wind-based course rather than a compass-based course. Some autopilots do have a wind-based option. But you're always steering to the apparent wind. So it means if you set the vane on a broad reach, it's going to stay on a broad reach. And if the wind shifts, you need to adjust the course. Of course, on a Atlantic crossing or a Pacific crossing or any crossing, you're not really adjusting the course that often because really you're sailing to what makes the boat comfortable.
And you're sailing with trade winds for the most part.
Yeah, you hope so.
Yeah, ideally.
Ideally.
Yeah,
that's the big difference is steering to apparent wind versus a magnetic compass-based course.
And can you kind of describe, it'd be easier for someone to go Google Hydrovane right now so they can have a visual, but can you kind of describe how the mechanics of it work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are different types kind of in the wind vane world, but ours specifically takes the signal and the power from the wind's action on its large vane. And you've maybe seen the red is the signature color, so the big, large vein. And that goes through the mechanism and gets transferred down into a shaft that turns the rudder.
You set the leading edge into the wind.
Down below.
Yeah.
So the power is coming from the wind's action on the vane that is going through the mechanism to turn the rudder down below to keep you on course. So with our system, you're actually locking off your boat's main rudder, so it's completely fixed. With some of the other types, how they work, servopendulum types, there's a pendulum that's moving back and forth in the water, and it's your speed through the water and the power of that twists the paddle, which then pulls a line which comes through and turns your wheel or your tiller to move the boat's main rudder. So two very different ways of doing it, but both accomplishing the same thing, which is steering with no power, which is very cool.
And as the sailor, as the person on watch, once you get comfortable with how the Hydrovane operates, it is the most incredible crew member that you can invest in, really, truly. You don't have to feed it. It doesn't need to sleep. It just goes. It is a complete workhorse. And I can definitely attest for that for my 2 Atlantic crossings. And then later on a different boat, a much bigger, heavier boat from San Francisco down to Galapagos. And like you guys, like our second crossing, Canaries to Antigua, that was 21 days. And I have it in the log somewhere, but I'm fairly certain it was 19 to 20 of those 21 days were 100% Hydrovane with tweaks here and there.
Yeah,
totally.
It's
It's badass.
Alicona was a big, heavy boat. Like, how much did it weigh?
Alicona was a big, heavy boat, and we used the same vane that we bought for Desiree, but we just had to beef up the bracket. So we had to get a bigger bracket for the transom. It was like the trifecta bracket.
The A bracket.
And Alicona was 23 tons, 47-foot steel catch endurance. So heavy boat. And I remember feeling skeptical and worried that the Hydrovane wouldn't be able to kind of keep up with it, or maybe it would have a bigger lag. But it did excellent. And that was a big selling point, I think, when I was able to sell the boat, was that setup. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we get a lot of customers that actually are seeking boats with Hydrovanes on them.
Yeah, that's fair. And I remember looking into, like, when prepping for the first ocean passage, I knew self-steering, knew some kind of wind vane was essential. Like, that was an investment we were going to make. So, we just kind of went and did our due diligence, did our research, and we kept coming back to Hydrovane because it has its own separate rudder and because it acts as an emergency rudder. And halfway through that journey, we needed it as an emergency rudder. And that is the thing that got us to safety. It was worth it.
And did your main rudder, it didn't completely shear off, did it? Or was there just some connection
stayed
issue?
on. The rudder sheared from the post itself. It did not leave the boat, but the post was just spinning. The bolts sheared, so the post was spinning inside the rudder, and so we just had nothing up top. And hand steered via Hydrovane for the last 8 to 10 hours. This was coming into Lagos, Portugal, after my very first, and I would like to say last knockdown. Yeah, we broke a lot of stuff, and we were really lucky too. And the Hydrovane was our saving savior. Thanks, guys.
The wild passage.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, Jesse, we'll never forget you, because I will always remember when you ordered, you then mailed us like a thank you letter to our office, like this handwritten card.
Wow,
saying,
that was
thank
so
you.
nice.
It was so thoughtful of you. I'm
glad you remember it, because I don't.
And this is before AI, so it was definitely you.
Yeah, it was very sweet.
I can picture my handwriting. I kind of write in cursive, so I can picture myself doing it, which is funny. I just don't actually remember it. Well, here we are after my handwritten thank you letter. Will you give us a little backstory on the business, family business? You guys are based out of Vancouver, BC. The product is manufactured over in the UK. How was this kind of passed down to you running it? Or was it not passed down? You tell me.
No, my dad's still fully involved. He actually is, long story short, he wanted a hydrovane for his boat, and this would have been 20 years ago. And he was the CA by trade, and so he just recently sold his accounting practice, was kind of looking for the next thing, wasn't really sure what he wanted to do. And so he called up Derek Daniels, the original hydrovane inventor in England, and said, I need a hydrovane for my boat. And Derek said, well, I can get you one, but I'm thinking of passing on the business. And my dad didn't really think much of it, but he told my mom, and my mom said, call him back, find out what the story is. And literally a week later, he's on a plane to England and bought the business. And then he had lots of hydrovanes and no boat to put it on.
Whoa. Okay. I did not know that part of the story. I wasn't expecting that. I figured they were like business partners from the get-go.
Yeah, no. My dad is, both my parents are very entrepreneurial. And he's still, how old's my dad now? 70.
So 77 maybe.
And he's the first one in the office every morning. He works every day. He loves the business.
Yeah.
So it's kind of great because, between him, Sarah, and I, the three of us, we're all good at different things. So we make a good team.
Yeah, I think both parents learned or realized early on that they needed a third, and Will jumped on board very soon after.
Did he get his hydrovane
over the years?
Sorry?
Did he ever get his hydrovane?
Yeah.
No,
did your dad get his hydrovane? You got a business instead.
No, they shifted gears for sure.
He was a bit late to it, and I think they swallowed the anchor, and they've got a place in California, and they he loves vicariously, living through us now, and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. How
old were you?
Long ago.
Yeah. Will, how old were you when this fit occurred, where you were like, oh, I could run this business with you all?
I think
early 20s.
No, it wasn't early 20s. I think it was 25 or 26.
Oh, you were early 20s. Well, you're straight out of uni.
No, I wasn't. I had a job out of university, and I took 2 years off, so.
How old are you now? How old are both of you now?
Oh, I'm just 29.
Looking good, 29-year-old.
No,
dad.
you know what? It's my birthday tomorrow. So
seriously?
I am. Yeah.
Happy birthday,
approaching the mid 40s, but I'm not there yet. Put it that way.
Oh, you guys look so good.
I'm 44.
43.
44. Okay, 42. 43, 44?
42.
Amazing.
Until
Excellent.
Tomorrow.
43 going on 23.
There you go.
Young at heart, that's all that matters.
Okay, so you've been with Hydrovane for a while now. Was when your dad took over and then when you eventually signed on, was it already like a fully functioning, profitable business, or did it need, what did it require from you?
No, I mean, Derek was basically running it into the ground. He made it, if you wanted to buy a hydrovane from him, you had to, he made it quite difficult.
You had to write letters. I mean, it was pre-email and all that stuff too. So the businesses were shifting very quickly, but the product was completely unknown in the US market. And your parents would probably kill me for saying this, but they went to the Miami boat show for the first time that first year, and they put the Hydrovane on backwards on the display stand. And it wasn't until halfway through the show that someone who had seen one before came and told them that it was actually on backwards.
Stop it.
So there was a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We've come a long way.
We've come a long way. And many shows that were, it's come a long way, put it that way. And the product itself has come a long way too. So
I bet. I was going to ask you about that. I dug around on the website a little bit, and I wanted to ask, like, this was before your guys' time, but it sounds like there's been multiple versions and a lot of modifications over the years. So what have been some of the biggest modifications to Hydrovane?
Yeah.
Well, the big thing was just catering to big boats, because as you know, boats are only getting bigger. So our main.
They're not getting heavier though.
Yeah, that's true.
No, not heavier. That's true,
but
longer.
They're definitely getting bigger. The number of 50-foot plus boats that we supply hydrovanes for now is quite common.
What's your max?
Yeah, bigger. Well, we've started actually doing dual hydrovanes on really big boats.
Ooh.
So like we just shipped one last week for a guy on a 60-foot Hansa, and it'll have dual hydrovanes, one on either side of the platform. So really, we don't have a limit. for as far as cruising boats go.
Have you done that
But
yet,
for
or is this the first time?
No, we've
Yeah,
done
it's
it.
done.
We've done it quite a few times actually. There's
And
probably, I don't know how many out there, but it's basically it's double the rudder, double the steerage.
and you just set them the same.
Mm-hmm.
Set them the same. You don't tie
Okay.
them together because on these big beamy boats, the apparent wind on the leeward side might be slightly different than the windward side.
Okay.
But yeah, it's kind of a cool concept. But with a single unit, we go up comfortably up to 25-ton displacement, 55 feet, 50 to 55 feet, somewhere in there. And then it just depends on the boat.
But you couldn't use like a Hydrovane from, let's say, like 2005. You couldn't put it on a 50-foot boat and expect
Yeah.
it to perform. We've upgraded all the materials, lengthened the rudder, lengthened the vane, pretty much worked through every single part from an engineering standpoint to improve it. So there are a lot of differences, but really strength is probably the main one.
And talk to me a little bit more about strength. Can you describe like the materials used top to bottom?
Yeah, top to bottom. Well, a lot of steel and aluminum. So we'll see what happens with some tariffs.
Yeah.
We're skirting it through. No, we're very
We manufacture in England, so
we
we're
manufacture
okay right
in
now.
England, and we're on a very obscure tariff code, put it that way.
Interesting.
Yeah, but the shaft, which is where the rudder fits on at the bottom, the shaft is now made of super duplex stainless steel, which is even 3 times stronger than 316. And
Wow.
they just
Okay.
it's very hard to bend them or break them. And the rudder is solid cast nylon. So nylon is a very strong material. It's interesting because it can also take a little bit of flex, but they're virtually indestructible. Yeah.
And then the vane itself has an aluminum frame with like a really
aluminum frame,
skinny sleeve
exactly.
over it, and it's wicked light, super light, almost so light that you got to be careful when you put it on because the wind wants to take it away.
Yeah, and it has to be really light for that light air performance. So, we see sometimes people cover their vanes with Sunbrella or some material that does withstand the sun better, but it just would not get you the same light air performance. It's not as sensitive.
And can you guys give me a price point for those who are considering Hydrovane right now?
Yeah.
I mean, every unit is spec'd for the boat, so it's not like a one
Price range.
one price for all. But smaller boats with small shafts, you can in 2H brackets, you'd be I'd say closer to 5,800 plus the shipping.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then bigger boats with longer shafts, the A bracket, which you had on Alicona, that would be probably somewhere around 7,000 plus shipping.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So in between 58 and 8,000 roughly. I will attest for it being worth every penny. It always feels like a big cost up front, but the moment you're out there using it, it doesn't. So it is an upfront cost. That is one of the best investments I feel like you can make. I can just sit and advertise for you guys all day. No biggie.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
Worth it.
This is what we always say though. Our customers are our best salesmen, not us. I mean, we would rather people hear it from someone else, not us, because obviously we're biased. But the big thing, our competition nowadays is really autopilots, and people think, well, I'm just going to get a second autopilot or carry enough autopilot spares if I have an issue. And when people start pricing it out and they see that they can get a Hydrovane for almost the same price for, compared to a below deck autopilot, it starts to make a lot more sense because you're like, wait a second, this is completely independent. I have my autopilot for when I need it. And then plus I'm getting an emergency rudder. So I think it gives you the ultimate in redundancy if you can have both.
Yep. And I want to backtrack for a second because I think most sailors know this, but maybe to the newer sailor or people who aren't paying attention to this, Orcas and Gibraltar and the entrance to the Mediterranean and rudders. Okay, this is very specific to sailboats and rudders and Orcas attacking essentially. I don't know what they've concluded about the behavior, but can you just share that a little bit or explain what you've learned?
Yeah, well, we just came through that zone. So we came out of the Med in August. And I tell you, I had a lot of anxiety about it. I was kind of glued to my phone and all these different chats. There's this like a Telegram group that you can be on where everyone's posting in real time about their passages along the coast and what they've seen or not seen. But yeah, orcas are coming up and essentially kind of playing. Some of the younger ones are playing, but it results in rudders that get broken off and ships that are incapacitated. So we came through, and fortunately, late August, early September, a lot of the orcas have actually moved out of the Straits of Gibraltar and moved up the coast of Portugal. So we were concerned, but not as concerned as if we'd been in a different area where attacks were happening. But
that being said, there was an attack like a week after us.
Yeah, right in the Straits of Gibraltar.
Yeah.
So what we did for that scenario, we have 3 rudders on our boat. So it's a catamaran, we've got our 2 rudders and our Hydrovane. And we actually made the choice to take the Hydrovane rudder off for the passage where we were most concerned, which was leaving from Cadiz, and we were heading down Canary Island.
Always have a backup.
Yeah, so we took it off just for like the first 24 hours until we were away from the coast, and then we weren't as concerned. And the rudder is a little bit more difficult to get back on when you're at sea, but fortunately we weren't in bad condition or anything too crazy.
You just had to wait for a good flat, calm day. Yeah.
The Orcas is crazy though. But I think
crazy.
the number of instances are decreasing, but we're not sure if that's just because people are more aware and what to do. Because there is clear evidence that if you stay within the 30-meter mark along the coast, you're most likely not going to have issues. So that's what we did when we were in Gibraltar. We went up to Cadiz and we just basically hugged the coast all the way up.
It was really easy. I think it's actually 20 meters, but the issue at certain times of year is that the towns, or I guess the fishermen in the towns, have these big fishing nets that go way offshore. So you actually can't stay in the 20-meter mark. You have to go around these nets. And that's just where, like in Barbate, boats are just smack, smack, smack. Like all of the orcas are there because there's these big tuna nets. And then all the boats are having to go way out, and it's just like one after the other. So fortunately, those nets are gone in the late summer. They're there in the spring for all the boats coming in.
So interesting and so unfortunate that that's become a new concern. I mean, of course, changing weather and climate change is our biggest thing that's changing the way we sail. But the orca behavior has been a pretty fascinating one, and also just such a commonly sailed area. It is the entrance to the Atlantic or the entrance to the Med, which is, where we all want to be. Yeah.
Causing a lot of grief.
Seriously. Okay, I want to jump in a little bit to your sailing backstory, which I know is extensive because you guys have been liveaboards, kind of split land sea life for quite a long time. But can you tell me a little bit about where it began and your first big, where did your sailing story begin?
Yeah, we have been sailing. We've been doing the sailing life for 13 years now, which is crazy. But it 13 years, and it began even before that when we met.
But Sarah had never sailed before when I met you.
I was curious about that. But you were up for it. I remember you saying you were very up for it.
We went out on our first date, and actually, I'll backtrack a little more. We've been at a party at a bar, and
always starts at a bar.
Always starts at a bar, and he has this earring on the left side here, and he still has it. And I was like, "Okay, buddy, like, what's up with the earring?" And he told me.
You didn't quite say it like that.
He told me a great story. So
when I was younger, my parents took my brother and I out of school. I was going into grade 11. My brother was in grade 8. And they wanted to do this 1-year sailing adventure. And it was all pretty new to us. And so we did it. My parents dragged us out of school. We sailed down to Mexico and then out to Hawaii, and then Hawaii back to the Pacific Northwest, all in 1 year.
Wow.
And as we were going down the coast, there's you would know the Point Conception, which is a bit of a gnarly point. You've got to make sure you time it right. And this was before good weather forecasting. And The times have changed a lot. But anyway, we got around the point and we had a successful passage, and we were in port in Morro Bay, and this guy on another boat who came around at the same time said, all the salty sailors, they get their ears pierced when they, round a significant cape like Cape Horn. I said, well, this isn't Cape Horn, but it sounds cool. And he's like, yeah, you want to do it? And my brother and I are like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'll pierce your ear right now. And we were like, okay, cool, let's do it.
So how old were you?
I was 15. My brother was, I guess, 13 at the time. And he just grabbed a potato, a bit of ice, and put a needle through our ear. And now we've got our ear pierced. So, yeah, I have had it in ever since. I think it's a bit of a good luck charm for me. So,
I appreciate that. I was the ear piercer. I was the ear piercer of my girlfriends in high school. You could have called my family home was like the pierce shop.
Nice.
I thought it was a great story. I was expecting not that, because I didn't know anything about sailing or this type of adventure life. So we ended up going on our first date, and on that first date, Will was like, yeah, I kind of want to do this. I want to do this. I want to sail to the South Pacific. And I was like, yeah, let's do it.
So do I.
And so do I. I don't know anything about this, but I want to do it. So we started saving for our first boat, literally from that moment. And we saved for 5 years. We bought an apartment in Vancouver, and finally, then we got married. And then the month after we got married, we were like, okay, we have enough money to buy a boat. And so we went on Yacht World, and we were like, we're buying a boat this month. Where's the boat going to be? And it was already the fall. So we knew we wanted to buy down in California or even in Mexico to start the trip. And we found a boat actually in San Carlos in Mexico. And we flew down, we saw it, and we were like, yep, this is the boat. There's flew back.
Three boats we were looking at, but it was literally
seen three, but it was very obvious which one we were going to buy. And we put the offer on, and I quit my job, and I was like, going sailing. And they asked me, do you know how to sail? And I was like, I do not know how to do anything.
Not yet. So this is 5 years of strategizing for you, Sarah. Had you been sailing at this point though? Had you been have you done some sailing here and there?
Not really. I don't know. I can't remember.
You did a sailing course. You did Power Squadron.
I did the Power Squadron and some written courses, and I think we would take your Richard's boat out. So, but I hadn't done anything extensive, that's for sure. I'd never done an overnight passage or anything. I think we had just been so focused on my career back at home and all these different things. So then we bought the boat, went down, and our first passage was 450 miles down to Mazatlan. And so that was the beginning.
Did you get seasick?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, you did.
I did. Yeah.
I remember it was our first night at sea, and new boat, new to both of us, the whole experience, the lifestyle, everything. So we're trying to figure out a lot of things. And we headed out to sea, and it was so nice to get the sails up and the boat sailing nicely. And I was like, okay, I'm going to bed. You're on watch. Hopefully I gave you a little bit of instruction.
How nervous were you, Will?
Oh, gosh.
I just remember coming up on deck.
Will also had the flu. I think he had a fever of 102 or something. So he was already delirious. Yeah.
But I just remember coming on deck at 2 a.m. And I was like, what is going on? And Sarah's puking over the side of the boat, and there's lines everywhere. It
was because the wind had died, and I was just I actually really just had no idea what I was doing. So we were just rolling around out there, wallowing, and yeah. But that's only.
And how far have you come? Oh my God.
Yeah, how far have I come?
Yeah.
How far have I come? But yeah, so that was the first boat, and kind of the introduction was. It was slow and then very quick once we were out there, and we crossed the Pacific after our first season in Mexico, and had the most unbelievable time. It was actually pre-social media, I want to say. So we didn't even have cell phones. We were still connected because we were still working. Yeah. So we were we'd get onto Wi-Fi and do what we had to do, but we weren't really connected with anyone else except for the people that we were sailing with. And it was such
Don't you miss
a cool
that?
Experience.
Yeah.
I kind of do. It was really cool, and everywhere was new, and not that it's not an adventure now, but like you really know where you're going. You can look up the details. There's like Navigate, all the apps. You can like see who's already there. You can research it to death.
Yeah.
But back then we were just going places and we didn't even know what to expect.
Well, it was interesting too, like sailing to the South Pacific, there was kind of a lot of unknown.
So much
and
unknown.
There wasn't a huge amount of information. There was no real good guidebook. So you're kind of heading into the unknown. I remember there was this one compendium called the Soggy Paws, and it was basically a conglomeration of everyone's experience in these various anchorages. And so I would just on passage sit there and read this giant, because we printed it all off, and just I would sit there on passage and just read, you know, one by one all the experiences that people are having. But it really was just sort of a complete unknown for us.
Yeah, and that was only 12
It's very
years
wild.
ago.
Yeah. There are a few things in life today that are truly wild, you know, out there and wild. And we've just gotten further and further from being able to disconnect. So, you know, you hit it at a time where it was truly wild and unknown and terrifying and exciting. Did you either of you have in those early days your moments or your days where you really questioned your decision to pack up and go, or did your heart always stay in the same place?
No, we were very motivated and very excited.
We're very good at being determined and just making things happen, and we're always looking forward. Of course, you have your days and, you know, times when you're like, what am I doing here? But the reality is it quickly gets glossed over with, you know, an amazing sunset.
Rewards. Really constant cool rewards.
And the ignorance is bliss in some ways. And I miss being so new to it all. Like, you know, when you've been sailing for so long and it's still amazing, it's still great, but like there's a part of me that like that sense of adventure that very first year was so strong and so high. And I'll never get back there, right?
That was America's Great Loop for me. 100%. You know, everything was scary and exciting and funny, and the emotional ride was so fun and intense. When did you start to feel confident sailing, Sarah?
Oh, somewhere out there on the ocean.
Day 492.
Totally. You know, I'll never be an amazing sailor like Will. I know how to sail. I know what to do. I can do it, but I'm not a tweaker. I'm not a let's get this just right type of sailor. I'm out here for the ride and the adventure of it all. More of a traveler than a diehard sailor. So
I can relate to that.
You underestimate yourself.
Oh, I underestimate. My skills are fine, but they're never going to be your skills because you're far more in tune with, you know,
because it's not a priority, not because you couldn't be. You could be. Yeah.
I could be, and I could have been on that first boat maybe more, but I was really learning the basics. And now with the kids on board and all the other things, it's like
I'd say the one thing though that we have that really we're a good team. So we both kind of use what we're good at together in combination, and I would say we're definitely more on the just throw yourself in the deep end and figure it out kind of operation versus like go educate yourself to death and then finally get out there and then get scared and turn around.
And I relate to that.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think you value most about each other aboard?
I can trust Will's actions. I think he's got amazing. He has such great seamanship. He's been doing this for so long. You know, before me, he not only with his parents but crewing on lots of boats, and I just can trust his judgment and call. And you can trust
huge
sit down and shut up.
Huge.
No, Sarah's amazing though. Like she can kind of do it all. You really can.
You're
and
sweet.
She's the glue in our family. I mean, the way that she manages the kids when we're at sea, and I'm constantly blown away by it.
That's great. I think that I'm a bit more the dreamer and Will's a bit more the doer. And in all these situations, that was just our first boat and our first adventure. We sold that boat in Sydney, Australia after 2.5 years. And then we came back to Vancouver and we got another boat, Jeanneau 43. And we lived aboard in our hometown for like a one winter. And then we were going through a bit of a difficult time, and living aboard in the winter in Vancouver was really not how I wanted my sailing life to be in any way. So I am the one who says, look, we're heading south or this is not happening. We're heading back to Mexico. We got to go south till the butter melts.
Yeah.
And making those kind of bigger decisions and then pushing Will along to make sure that we're able to do that.
Well, it's recognizing when a change needs to be made, because it's one thing to know change needs to be made, which is your thing, and then it's another thing to act on the change, which is Will's thing, maybe. So yeah, it does. It's a few different steps in the process to actually make a change from recognition to action. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So at some point, you added 2 beautiful boys to your story, Hugo and Kip, twins, mind you.
We did. I know. Yeah, we're so fortunate.
They're amazing.
Yeah, and that was part of the difficult time. We were struggling to get pregnant and then struggling for about 5 years to keep pregnancies. So
that's a long
at
time.
the time, it was a really long time.
It's so invasive and distracting. And it's hard to focus on anything else in life when you want something bad.
Really? Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
that's part of the problem too, I think, because we're such doers, and like when we put our mind to something, we just want to do it, and it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And you had already pulled off so much by putting your minds together. So to do something that should feel so natural. Yeah.
Totally.
So Hugo and Kip, the little blessings, come along. They're sweet boys. It's been a few years since I've seen you all and seen them, but they were, how old are they now?
Now they're actually turning 6 in May. So
so they were 3.
5 3/4.
Okay. Yeah, they were 3, I guess, last time I saw them, and just so freaking cute. And you had an au pair at the time, and you have an au pair now.
Exactly. Yeah. So when our boat was in San Diego when they first came on board, and they sailed
previous boat.
And this was our Jeanneau, and their first passage was the outside of Baja in February of 2020, and it was pretty wild. And we came down and we came into Mexico, and we were so happy to finally be there. But of course, kind of the COVID thing blew up shortly thereafter. So we ended up leaving the boat in La Paz, actually in Marina La Paz, where you are now. Against our better judgment, perhaps, but we were out of time to get back to Canada. And then we made the decision to go back again in the fall, despite the whole COVID thing. We figured with little babies on board, we'd be safer in Mexico cruising than being back in kind of still kind of a lockdown state. So we spent that period when they were like, how old were they? They were like 1.5, just the 2 of us in like the Sea of Cortez and Mazatlan and down to PV, trying to work with 1.5-year-old twins loose on the boat. It was absolute hell. Like we had enjoyable moments, but we were redlining.
We were redlining big time.
Yeah, like they were still doing 2 naps, and we would go to our computers while they're napping. Then they would be up, and then once they went to bed, we'd be up working until midnight. So it was just like you can't do that.
We met so many parents that had twins, and they're like, "Oh, my best advice to you is when they're sleeping, you get your sleep." And Sarah and I both looked at each other. We're like, "I've never napped in my life. Like, how am I going to do that?"
When we sleep, we work. Like that's the kind of pace that we've had since they were born. So we realized very quickly, and we wanted to try by ourselves, but then we realized, and this was another decision. I just said, well, we need a third person. We can't be on the boat. It's actually almost unsafe at this point. With everything we're trying to do. So since then, we've been bringing someone else along for the ride, and it's been so great having a third person whose focus really has been the boys. So we can work. And you met Lou, who was our first au pair.
Yeah,
so lovely. Awesome. We really miss her. Yeah.
She was so sweet.
And
all of our au pairs have been amazing.
Such great people.
Sarah's HR background really helps with finding these good people because man, does it make such a difference. It means we can have a life and we can actually appreciate our time with the boys versus like kind of dreading it or constantly looking at our phone or trying to figure out, what the next move is.
Yep.
So it's amazing.
I think it's one of those things, and you can probably relate to this. Like when you take off sailing with babies or babies turning to toddlers or toddlers for the first time, I'm really proud that I did it, but I won't ever do it again. Like that's how I feel about. Like I'm so glad I did it. I'm like, good job, Jess, you did it. But I can't say I don't even know if I'd recommend it, but I'm just like, I wouldn't repeat it. I feel like I learned so much. And there were so many beautiful moments, and like the photos I have from this time of my life are so beautiful, but it was tough, and that was with one. So I can't imagine trying to maintain the two. And it's like, it's yet again a crossroads where you say something needs to change. How are we going to change it? And then decisions almost get easier because they just have to be made. It's no more like sitting around tossing a coin. It's like, this has got to change. How can we still enjoy this life? And what do we need to get rid of, or what do we need to add to raise these kids on this boat?
Exactly.
I feel like you guys had it pretty dialed in when you were down in Banderas Bay and had Lou aboard and were working and just kind of marina lifing it for a little while.
Yeah, that was a great season. And we did spend a lot of time, in Paradise Village Marina and Banderas Bay, and then over in La Cruz. And it's just an easy life. And
easy cruising.
We love Mexico.
It was so funny though. I think it was the second when we came back down to the boat, and because we'd left the boat in Paradise Village, and the resort was half empty because of COVID. Nobody was there, and all the staff, there was way more staff than there were people in the hotel. So I would just go up with the boys and walk around the resort, and they would just grab brooms from the marina staff and be sweeping the sidewalks, and all the staff got to know them. And it was actually kind of a special time.
It's a real COVID time.
You were much more local. You were treated probably like locals.
Oh, it was so great.
What would your guys' advice be to parents who are looking to start sailing with their littles, like littles?
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, it is worth it. It's very, very manageable. It's just not going to be the same relaxing experience as if you didn't have kids. There are a lot of things that are really nice about being on a boat with little kids, especially when they're really little. Like all of your stations, like from your diaper station to your sleep station to the play area is all very close by, versus like if you're in a house, you're maybe moving around a lot more. The small space really, really worked. The kids, we put them in their pack and plays in the aft cabin, and we had some gnarly conditions, and they would just rock
airborne.
Perfectly fine. So they're really adaptable.
But that hard age was really 1.5 to...
The 1.5, 1 to 2 is by far the hardest. And after that, it's great. And before
and then it gets fun again. I feel like
it's fun again.
Yeah. Otis is 4, and this is the first extended travel I've taken with him at this age, and it's, dare I say, fun now. It's fun. We can do things, and I'm definitely excited to do some more sailing with him now that he's a little bit older, and I can totally trust him. It's crazy.
Trust-ish.
Trust. Yeah. Air quotes. Trust.
Seeing these kids, not just our kids, but other kids at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, it's mind-boggling what they can do already at this age. Hugo's driving Ardini, with someone in it. I love that. But he, and it's so cool. And like we just bought surfboards, and we're going to get into surfing, and
it's pretty cool.
The cool thing is now we get to do the things we want to do with them.
Yes. I'm starting to feel that a little bit.
Yeah, the shift has like really just happened. Like now they can walk a lot further, they can hike, they want to hike, they want to snorkel, they want to do all these things. So it's really great.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, honestly, my advice would be to do it. Just you can do it at any age. There's no perfect, time to make it happen. And if it happens that you have a window in your life to do it and your child is a year and a half, then do it. But
it's hard in a house too with a 1.5-year-old.
Yeah.
It's like hard anywhere. So.
Hard anywhere. Yeah.
But don't wait for the perfect age, because I don't think there is a perfect age.
I agree with that. Also, like even as adults living aboard and sailing life, like it is the school of life. I feel like I've learned everything I've ever needed to learn because of a boat or at sea or at a dock or with my head in a bilge, like whatever the subject is, there is so much to learn. And you can see that with kids aboard as well. Like there is a maturity and an intelligence to boat kids. And there's something to be said for the adult real life experiences that they gain at a very young age.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and they're always going to be so proud. Like they cross the Atlantic. They cross the Atlantic.
Can't wait to talk about this.
Like, how cool is that?
That's crazy. It's not crazy. I mean, that's just it's like this default reaction to say that's crazy, but it's not. But I did want to ask you, like, was it a big discussion or did you know? Okay, so let me backtrack really quick. You guys eventually sold the boat that you had in Mexico to go for a catamaran. Like you had the twins. You always knew that you wanted an extra hand at this point. So the next big like action was we got to get a boat that facilitates our family a little bit better, which turned out to be a catamaran in Greece, correct?
Yeah, well, it was going to be a catamaran and it was always going to be a Leopard 46. We kind of... We just knew, honed in on. Yeah, there was this one model we homed in on and fit our price point and everything that we wanted. So we sold KiteQuest at the end of that season that we saw you, I think.
Yeah,
so
I think
May of that year. Yeah. And she sold really quickly and we came back to Vancouver and we're like, where are we going? Like
where are we going to start our next chapter? That is actually the most exciting part of boat shopping.
It was so fun.
My initial reaction was maybe we should just simmer for a little bit and see where we land. And
I went psycho.
And Sarah's
like, wah, wah, wah.
You go down the hole of like, this has to happen and it has to happen now. But it was 2022, so it was the height of the catamaran craze. Like, the boat market was so wild. And we wanted to buy a cat. Most of the Leopard 46 are in the Caribbean or like Florida or the East Coast. So we were kind of focused on buying a boat where we are now. And we had...
where are you now? We haven't even talked about that.
Now we're in the Caribbean. Yeah, right now we're in Guadeloupe. Okay. But we were backup offer on like 2 or 3 Leopard 46s. We were always like just a day late. We had accepted offer on one that didn't work and then on another that didn't work. And I was like, okay, I'm not on Instagram at that point. I wasn't on Facebook. And I was like, but I'm going to join Facebook just to get on the Leopard 46 owners group. And so I joined it. I got on the group. And the next day, someone sent a post just saying like, we're thinking of listing my Leopard 46 for sale, or I'm going to, like, where should I post it privately? And it was a boat in Greece. And I sent an email to the owner, and that was at like 11 o'clock one night. Mm-hmm. And then the next morning Will rolled over and I was like, well, I think I found our boat, but it's in Greece.
Were you out of your hole yet, Will, of thinking maybe you wanted to pause boat life for a little bit?
No, I mean, you can twist my rubber arm pretty easily. You were getting on my train, yeah. But I was like, when she said it was in Greece, I was like, you got to be kidding me. That's so far away. Like, what the hell are you going to do with a boat in Greece?
It's in hindsight, it seemed really far because the boys were 3.
Yeah.
And like the thought of doing all that travel to get over there and like
from BC,
it just seemed a lot further. Yeah.
10-hour time zone difference. I mean, it was crazy.
But long story short, we ended up having a Zoom call, placing an offer on the boat sight unseen, buying the boat sight unseen, and back 2 months later and getting on a plane over to the most wonderful island called Poros, just near Athens. and the boat was there, and that family moved off, and we moved on, and it was a beautiful transition. So we're really, really fortunate, because it was the dreamiest of all our adventures so far, I would say.
Yeah, we felt like we were walking into a fairy
wonderland.
tale.
Just like queens, kings and queens, seamless transition.
Just how easily it all unfolded, and the fact that, like, literally at this point in our lives, it's our dream boat. It's an amazing boat, and to come into Greece, come in on the ferry, and I'd never been to Greece before, and it was just the whole experience of it all. I had to just I was constantly pinching myself.
Yeah, a monumental win for the whole family.
Yeah.
And also where it could have gone very much the other way.
Yeah.
Like we did make a bit of a calculated risk on not seeing the boat and not having a ton of information, but we were so confident in the previous owner and everything he had done. And I feel like he was keep outfitting the boat and kept up the boat the way that we do with our boats, which makes them a good buy.
Yeah, absolutely. Value. And
Yeah.
the amount of time you've spent living on board, fixing, maintaining, updating, upgrading. Yeah. I mean, you can get a good feeling from a previous boat owner pretty quickly through a conversation. And it's great that you had the confidence in them that you were willing to go sight unseen, and wham, bam, it was yours.
Yeah.
It all started on Facebook, Sarah.
And there we were. I know. Yeah. And so now I guess I'm on Facebook a little bit.
If anyone wants to Facebook Sarah Curry.
Well,
she may not respond for 2 weeks.
Finally made an Instagram account, because it is fun. I wasn't that into it before, but now, like, all the sailing connections, it's so much fun.
It is fun, and I love watching, what's going on with you guys and the boys. And there is a sense of just staying connected with people. I think if we can shut off our minds to the negative aspects of Instagram, I mean, some of us can, some of us can't, but if you can, there's so many beautiful connections and just ways to keep up with people. And I love it. I'm glad you have one going. Keep it up.
Yeah, I love it too. I've loved yours for years, all your beautiful photos.
Thank you.
And your beautiful
slowly
writing.
slowly reviving it with 59 North interviews. So be my revival.
Nice. That's awesome.
Did you guys know you were going to cross the Atlantic with the boys? Was that a big conversation? What did that sound like?
Well, I think I knew.
Well, we were
daredevil.
Yeah, Sarah's got our next 10 years planned out. But honestly, I think we were kind of taking it 1 year at a time in terms of how it would all unfold. So our cruising in Greece and Turkey and the Med was pretty amazing, because we weren't sure what we were doing. But what we did realize after at least the first season, we were like, this 10-hour time zone difference is really difficult, because our office opens, we're working, obviously, and our office was opening at 7:00 at night. So we'd end up getting the boys to bed and be sitting on our computer for another 4 hours, staying up way too late, waking up early because the boys were getting up at 6 and doing it all over again. So it was an amazing time, but it was also quite taxing in terms of
very hard to manage business. Yeah,
exactly.
I guess it was helpful with UK production.
Yeah, it was. But really, the people we're most in touch with are in Vancouver. So there was no taking the evening off, especially for Will. It was work every single night until almost midnight, and it really gets hard. Which begs the question, where do you want to bring the boat, and starting to work your way west and get closer to your time zone to have a healthier lifestyle. So when you guys started talking about crossing the Atlantic, was there any headbutting about, do we bring the kids or do we not bring the kids, or was it always going to be all of us or none of us kind of thing? I don't think we even considered not bringing them. And there's it was just something that we were always going to do all together.
We do everything as a family, and it's just sort of. I do remember on our passage from Cadiz to the Canaries, we had a very rough passage,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
Hugo was very seasick. He was pretty
Yeah.
much seasick
Aw.
all the way across.
Yeah.
Oh, poor
And
buddy.
it wasn't until the fourth day that he sort of snapped out of it. But after that passage, we were like,
Day 4.
how's this
Yeah.
gonna go?
Yeah.
But we knew from previous passages that it takes 3 to 4 days to get your proper sea legs.
Yeah.
And sure enough,
Like,
that's
Day
exactly
4 is
how it
bounce back day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But he even
Yeah.
like he's a little more anxious probably than Kip, or a little he's just more in tune, I think, with what's
Yeah.
happening around him as
Mhm.
well.
more aware.
And so he, even in the med where we were doing like in the med, we did, I think, maybe 6 night hops, like to get all the way across. And even for the night passage, he would get a little anxious and not want to do it, and then got kind of used to it. And then we had, as Will was saying, like this horrible first night out of Cadiz. And even though it got better out there, it was really hard. And so I don't know, there was maybe one moment where we ended up leaving the boat in the Canary Islands and going back for the Southampton Boat Show and the Annapolis Boat Show.
Okay.
And there was a part of me that was like, you know, if we
Should
get back
we or
to the
should we
boat
not?
and he is
Yeah.
so anxious,
What's our Polish trip plan?
what's our plan?
Yeah.
And we got back to the boat and he was very anxious, actually.
Mm.
He kind of went through he was feeling our energy because, as you know, when you're getting ready to head out on like, you know,
a
an
lot
ocean
going
path,
on.
so much going
You're
on,
juggling a lot of things.
juggling so many things. But I think it was just kind of the same way that we operated, that the second we got out there, he was fine. And we were
Aw.
fine. Like,
That's
you know, when
just how
everyone's operating
that's how it works for
up
adults
here, and then-
too. Yeah.
yeah, and then you're like, we're finally doing it. Yay.
They're the same. They're the same
Yeah.
as us. They feel the
Absolutely.
same things. They might not be able to communicate it or
Yeah.
control their emotions the same
Yeah.
way, but they're the same.
And we had such an awesome passage, like 5-day passage from Canaries down to Cape Verde. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we also got so lucky going across the 2-week passage across. Like the boys were rock stars. The people we had on board, Jill, who's been our au pair for like almost 2 years, she was with us and having the best time.
the other
she's from
guy.
Michigan.
Wait,
And she's from
guy.
Michigan.
Wait,
And Dylan.
but you had
And Dylan.
Dylan.
You know
Yes.
Dylan.
Yeah.
Yes. I saw that at the very end. I was
Oh.
like, wait, I forgot you all know each other.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I forgot. You know Dylan. Yeah. So
Yeah, we met in San
yeah,
Carlos.
Will and Dylan go way back.
Yeah, Dylan and I go way back, and so he was like the first person on our list when we were like,
Aw,
you can
he's
join us to
great.
help.
Yeah, he's so great.
And yeah, he crewed with us. He was amazing. Dylan's an amazing cook too.
Yeah.
So he
He
Cool.
cooked every
cooked
dinner.
every meal, every dinner.
Yeah, so
That's
Just-
so awesome.
total rock star. Yeah.
We had the dream team for sure.
So it's very
Oh,
positive.
it was a smooth, positive experience to bring the boys, which is just you can't ask for more than that. And it's so true though that all the fears and anxieties occur before you leave, because once you leave, there's just this acceptance that you can't prepare anymore. So you just have to be done preparing, and it's just like a mental game from there. But everything leading up is like so physical. Like there's just so much to do, so many ducks to get in a row, so much organizing, provisioning, you name it. You know, there's just a lot going on, and then there is this sense of just like it's the moment you leave because that's it. There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, you get that sense of relief. You're like, okay, I can't buy one more thing or tick off one more thing on a list here. We just got to go, and what's to do?
I think Will was especially excited to go because we actually sailed with the Arc Plus rally. So Hydrovane's been a corporate sponsor for like 20 years. So we were excited to join up. And one of the really cool things was that there were 39 kids in the rally. So like
Seriously?
that very much.
Yeah.
That normalized it so much.
Yeah, they did in Las Palmas.
And then you all get to the
they-
end, and the kids can like get together.
Yeah.
See each other. Yeah.
In Las Palmas, they had a kids' dock, so they put all the boats with kids on the same dock.
Oh my god, I think I'm gonna
And
cry.
it was like a constant conveyor belt of scooters going up and down the dock with little kids and all the ranging
I
from
would
months
love
old
to photograph
to
that sometime.
15.
Yeah. It was
You
was
should.
great. But like
That's
my
pretty special.
point was that because we were part of the rally, everyone's this like flurry of activity,
Yeah.
including the boats with hydrovanes who are now like, hey, Will, can you come check my hydrovane?
Yeah.
And we're in the process of like doing our own stuff. We had like oh, we discovered diesel in the bilge like 5 days before we were meant to go. We had to like fix the diesel tanks. There's so many things going on. So yeah, once you leave, it is the biggest sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the fun really starts.
And then the fun starts. What do you guys think is your like technique to calm your mind in those moments where like your brain goes sprinting with scary thoughts? You know, like was it Kip or Hugo having anxiety? Sorry.
Hugo.
Yeah.
Hugo.
Yeah.
You know, Hugo's having anxiety, which gives you anxiety. Like, how do you kind of come back to home and remember why you started?
Well, on that one really bad night out of Cadiz, I know you came, I was up at the helm seat and we had like gusting over 30 on the beam. Or it was actually, no, we were close reaching because we couldn't fall off because there was a big lightning storm to the south of us off Morocco.
So you had to hold that
we were we had to stay high. And Will came up and I was doing my deep breathing techniques, you know, because now I do Pilates. So it's like actually amazing how you can calm yourself down with breathing. And I've only gotten into this probably in the past year, but it works so well, just focusing on your breath.
And that's great advice. Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, what's
your source? What's your source? Is it like a podcast you listen to or an app or?
Yeah, I do a lot of, well, probably just from doing classes back in Vancouver with deep breathing. But then, yeah, one of my most favorite things about the boat life is doing Pilates every morning on the bow. And now that we have a catamaran, it's so nice and spacious to be able to do that.
So much easier. Yeah.
So much easier.
Joe and Sarah do Pilates every morning while I wrangle the boys.
Oh, that's your own source of exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How about you, Will? How do you calm your brain when it's not calm?
That's a good question. I've actually never really thought about that before, to be honest.
Good. Something to leave you with then.
Yeah, like I like to think that I'm fairly calm under pressure.
Yeah.
So I don't get as affected when shit hits the fan. But I remember on that same time, it was the first time that I'd gone up on deck and I was trying to get a second reef in the main. And I was like, I think I might puke right now. And I was literally like trying to get the reef in while I'm like, uh-oh. I didn't, but I was like, this is
you were
really
there.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know who I thought of in that moment? I was like, we need Dylan. We need our crew member Dylan to get on this boat.
Yeah, that's right. So we didn't actually have an extra pair of hands.
Yeah,
Joe was with us, but that was it. So it was just five of us.
Yeah.
So I was kind of trying to run the boat, and Sarah was trying. It was. I don't know what my calming technique is, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, that's okay.
I sort of just keep my eye on the prize and focus on where we're going, and just really drill down on that and deal with things as they come, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a long time to learn your own strategy of how to do that. And for some people that's fairly natural and intrinsic. And for others, it's an effort to say, what can I do to calm myself down? Yep. Yeah. One last question I kind of want to go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
No, I was just saying now it's more like, what can we do to calm the boys down, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And how, what can you exemplify for them and teach them so they can do the same? Yeah. I want to chat to you a little bit about just like how you've managed personal and professional over the years, because I mean, I've seen you guys in a marina environment and, you know, working, but also playing. And Will, I feel like you're one of those guys that like, you can probably barely walk a dock without someone saying like, hey, can you just like stop by this afternoon and like check to make sure, you know what I mean? Like everybody that has a Hydrovane and knows either of you are around. So I imagine you're just when you're stagnant for a little bit in a marina, pulled in a lot of different directions. And then also just like, what are the blurred lines like for you guys between trying to do this beautiful personal life, but also maintaining a really professional reputation and being available for people? That's tricky.
Yeah, it is.
It is. And you're right. Like when we're in marinas, especially in marinas where there's lots of cruising boats,
it's fun. We actually kind of seek out the Hydrovane.
I enjoy it. Even sometimes with like at sundown or happy hour, we'll just grab a beer and walk the docks and chit chat, because it's so cool for us, you know, being our business, our family business, we get to actually talk to our customers and hear the positive feedback. And even if there's negative feedback, it's nice to know, you know, what's working and what's not. So to be honest, that's actually a bit of our highlight in terms of from a
Oh,
work
good.
perspective. Yeah,
Unless you're preparing your boat to cross the Atlantic and dealing with your
Yes.
own
Las
mess.
Palmas
Yes.
Las Palmas was extreme. It was
Yeah, it
like
was extreme.
every 2 hours there was someone coming by our boat asking for help, and I'm like,
Ah.
honestly, I just can't right now. I have so much going on, and I just can't. But
And it's hard to say no, but you're right. There is a price to pay for becoming the sailors that have the most experience and knowledge. And it's a wonderful thing to have. But yeah, in that environment, it's impossible.
Yeah.
for sure. For sure. We're fortunate because we really enjoy what we do, and it's very gratifying. And I think I still to this day get just as excited setting someone up with a hydrovane as I did 18 years ago.
Yeah.
That's kind
And
of cute.
really, like we've
Yeah.
had that we like almost every day now, like now that we're in the Caribbean, we see a boat come in with a hydrovane, and you know, we either know them or we don't know them, and we can, you know, stop by, say hi. We've had so many cool experiences over the years. Like I remember we were in Tonga in 2013, and I got an email because I was doing all the parts orders. Got an email from a guy saying, "Oh, like I need a bottom collar for my hydrovane, but unfortunately I'm in Nyafu, Tonga. Like, where do you think you could ship it?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm actually on the boat like next to yours. I'll just bring it over in the dinghy." So we've had like some really, really cool interactions with people where not that we carry a lot of parts, but we have a few small things on board, but we just show up right at the right time.
Do small things. There's also like there's just so much integrity in the product and the customers behind the product that I guess I could see how rewarding and fun that is for you guys to connect with people all over the world.
Totally.
You know what I just sort of thought of is that we have a lot of badass customers that are like doing really, really cool things. And actually, I think that our customers hearing their stories is really what helps keep us involved in the cruising world and helps motivate us to keep going and doing what we're doing, because we get emails from guys that are doing in 35-foot tiny little boats sailing around Cape Horn, you know, crossing oceans multiple times. And it helps put it all in perspective when you're concerned about, you know, a downwind passage across the Atlantic, and you're like, wait a sec, this is one of the easier passages in the world. Like,
in this whole scheme of things, we're not hardcore at all. Like a lot of our customers are really
hardcore. I think you are. What do you say to
a lot of different things?
For sure. What do you say to the naysayers or those who maybe just see your life as some big romantic vacation, who don't understand what actually goes on behind the scenes of pulling off your lifestyle?
I don't know. Do you think anyone feels that? I'm not sure. Like,
some people might look at it. Yeah,
well, it's a sense of jealousy or a sense of, you know, you have something that I don't, or you figured out how to live a life that I can't, or something that might look more glamorous than it is. Because I feel like the non-sailors who are maybe interested, I feel like see it as a more romanticized life than the reality of it. And it really takes a certain attitude and mindset to make this life fun, because it could not be fun. You know what I mean?
Exactly. No, it's
the most important thing is having a sense of humor.
For sure.
I like that.
I think we know how fortunate we are with this life. Like, we really do. I don't think there's a day that goes by that we're not like, oh my gosh, like we are really, really fortunate that we get to be out here and that we have jobs that allow us to be out here, because that is the big kicker. That's kind of how we're out here. Even though we've always bought our boats with our own money, you know, this is our boat. It's not Hydrovane's boat. We have put free Hydrovanes on our boats. That's for sure.
Well, that makes sense. Come on.
Yeah. But the boat is not a Hydrovane owned boat.
You've worked very hard for what we've worked very hard. You've worked very hard.
Here. And you know, I sometimes get just tired thinking about everything that we do.
Our life,
Sometimes I'm like, could I just please put it I just need to like hit the pause button for like a week or even a day. But you actually can't because all the emails come in, the wind comes up, the kids are here. Like there is no pausing.
Yeah. It's a full-on life.
I don't want to pause, but there's a lot
sometimes you want to pause. This is circa Will back in Vancouver before you bought the catamaran. Let's just pause for a minute.
For like a month or something. Yeah.
And maybe there's a future chapter where that is going to feel best for your family. But I think it's so cool that you guys have just kept going, and it's very inspiring. And I love how you talk about bringing the kids across the Atlantic very confidently and very positively, which I think is a scary idea for a lot of parents. And those who have been sailing around with kids don't fear it in the way that other parents might. It's really nice to hear your attitude towards that.
Yeah. They speak about it in such a positive way, which I'm so happy. Like if you ask them, how was the Atlantic? I think because we speak about it in such a positive way, because it was so great, they are just full of, it was fun. Like,
no big deal.
Great.
Across the Atlantic when I was 5. Are they still out on the dinghy right now?
They are. Yeah, we dropped them off in a little white sand palm tree island just in front here.
Oh, amazing. And who's your current au pair?
Jill from Michigan, actually.
Oh, Jill from Michigan. Okay.
Jill from Michigan, yeah.
Where in Michigan is she from?
She is from South Lyon.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
You know that place?
I do. Yeah. I don't know it well, but I know where it is.
All right. Yeah.
Jill, you're so lucky. Does she have any idea that she landed on such a fun family boat?
Oh, she sure does. Yeah. We've appreciated her so much.
Her first time doing this?
Yeah, totally new.
Yeah, she joined us last summer. It was last summer?
She joined us in 2023. Yeah. But
she leaves on Tuesday.
She leaves on Tuesday. She's heading back for another life. So
do you need another? I might have some people in mind.
We have found somebody. Yeah. So
okay. You're on it.
But thank you.
And this one's kind of a short stint too. Yeah. So it's only 2 months.
Yeah, we're heading down to Trinidad to haul out for hurricane season. So
okay, and then back to Trinidad next winter.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Tell me quickly. We'll go ahead and wrap up. I want you to tell me your goals for Hydrovane and your goals for. Is it KaiQuest 2? Your boat?
It is. Kaya.
Your last boat was KaiQuest. Kaya.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Kaya.
Tell me Hydrovane goals for future and boat goals for future. Where you would like to kind of make your next move on the boat to.
Yeah. Hydrovane goals. We've actually got a big project in the works.
Yeah.
Big project in the works. So that will be coming out probably in the fall. A new product. So we're working. Some people have been working on that.
A new product. Dun.
Yeah, not reinventing the wheel here, but something that kind of works with what we already do.
So a missing gap in the market or something. But
excellent.
We won't reveal it yet. We won't reveal it yet because we gotta get it produced first.
Exactly.
I'm on the edge of my seat. We'll have a follow-up interview on said product.
There you go.
Yes, exactly.
And for Kaya and the boating life, we just still don't know what we'll end up doing next season. Might go through to Panama pretty quickly and get back up to Mexico, or we might go up the East Coast since we haven't done that before. So we'll see.
You could sail to the Annapolis Boat Show. Is that a conversation?
We totally could. That's been one of the dreams. So.
I've always envisioned having our boat there at some point. So
I mean, that would be pretty cool. I'll be there this year. So if you sail there, let's do a little family photo shoot.
Nice.
Totally. We won't be sailing this year, but 2026 we might. But yeah, we'll definitely be there for sure.
Okay. So that will be the next time we see each other, and I will look forward to it.
Us too.
Nice. Yeah, we missed you there last year.
Oh, it's been a few years. Yeah, I have not been in several years. Yeah, it's probably been 5 years, maybe. I took Otis 1 year, so it had to have been 3 years ago. I don't know. It's been a minute. But really looking forward to it. So we'll see you guys there.
Nice.
It's awesome.
I adore you
Worth it.
guys, and I really appreciate your time, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank
We're
you.
so proud of you too, Jesse.
Awesome,
We got to
guys.
have you on the boat at some point.
Yeah, you know, we've got an extra cabin.
Don't twist my arm, dude. I will make that happen. I will make that happen.
Yeah.
That's a priority. Thank you so
For
much.
sure.
All right, guys, stay on the line for a
Bye.
second. We're going to end our call here, but stick with me for just another minute.
Yeah.
All right, bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. Will and
Bye.
Sarah Curry of Hydrovane.
Bye, guys.
Bye. One more huge thanks to our friends at WRI for sponsoring the season of On the Wind. Go to WRIWX.com to get in touch. We'd like to thank BoatHowTo one more time for sponsoring On the Wind. These are your boat tech courses from world-class experts. Go check out their site, BoatHowTo.com. On the Wind is the podcast about sailing, created by 59 North and hosted by me, Jessie Zevelkink, and also by Nikki, Andy, Mia, and August. The show is mixed and produced in Frederick, Maryland by Lee Cumberland. Ads are read by us, the hosts, and occasionally by 59 North's bosun, Adam Brown, and podcast producer, Lee Cumberland. Episode artwork and website show notes are done by Laura Parent out in San Francisco. The intro theme music is composed and performed by former podcast guest and musician Cameron Dayal, while the outro music you're hearing now is of course by our friends Storm Weather Shanty Choir from Bergen, Norway. We love hearing from our fans. Send us your questions and comments to holdfast@59-north.com. And do us a favor, review the show on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Until next time, hold fast.
On liquor and the horse, I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. As I was walking down the street, I met sweet Angeline. She said, come home with me, me lad, and we'll have a cracking time. But when I awoke, it was no joke. I found I was all alone. My silver watch and my money too, and my whole bloody gear was gone. Was gone, was gone. My whole bloody gear was gone. It was when I awoke, it was no joke, for my whole bloody gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met Big Rapper Brown. I asked him if he would take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said, last time you was paid up with me, you talked up no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Once more, once more, to go to sea once more. I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Sometimes we're catching whales, me lads, but mostly we get none. With a 20-foot oar in every paw from 5 o'clock in the morn. And when daylight's gone and the night's coming on, we rest upon our oars. And oh boys, you wish that you was dead, or snug with the girls ashore. Ashore, ashore, or snug with the girls ashore. Oh boys, you wish that you was dead, or snug with the girls ashore. Come all you seafaring lads that listen to me song. When you go a big boating, boys, make sure you do not go wrong. You take my tip when you come off a trip, don't go with any horse, but get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more.